Hey everybody, it's me, My-Linh, and today I'm gonna go over some hitting. Now this is gonna be part one of a multi-part series because when it comes to hitting, there's just a lot to go over and many approaches. So if you'd like the whole collection, make sure to subscribe to my mailing list. The link will be in the description below. For this tutorial, I'm gonna focus on the side to side, which a lot of poppers tend to think of as more of an arm hitting exercise or drill. But for me, the side to side is really a full body stop that stems from two things. The first is movement or motion, because you can't stop, let alone stop hard and sudden, unless there's movement to stop from. The second is direction, which is the side to side part of this. It's the left to right and right to left component. So once again, this approach to hitting really stems from stopping. And again, you can't stop unless you're moving. So that is why we go from side to side. And so with that said, instead of starting you off with arm muscle contractions, I'm going to take you through the feet, legs, torso, and out all the other extremities. So we're gonna start with our feet and our legs. So the first thing is to practice just shifting your weight from one leg to the other leg. Shifting just your entire body's weight from one leg to the other leg. But you're gonna keep both feet on the floor for this. And then the rest of it is just personal choice, whether you wanna stick to squarely facing the front as you're shifting from one leg to the other leg, or you can change your facing so that you're going off of the diagonals. So from one diagonal to the other diagonal. Whether you want to have a soft bend in your knees and kind of shift through the balls of your feet or the toes. Or if you want to have more of a mechanical robotic aesthetic and kind of keep a straight leg and just sort of slide from one side to the next side. You can also exaggerate by traveling a bit with it. So you're kind of leaping from one side to the other side. You can also kind of treat it more like a groove. This is sort of the popper's two-step. You know, when you hear music, you're just shifting your weight around back and forth from side to side. The most natural thing is to just go from left to right. Now, to get into the dimension of hitting with this, instead of focusing on having a visible, impressive muscle contraction, what I would focus on instead is just coming to an abrupt stop after each shift. So as you're shifting from one side, you want to stop suddenly. As you shift to the other side, you want to stop suddenly. And that stop is actually what activates those leg muscles anyway. So it's less about the pop and more about the stop. What you don't want to do, what you want to avoid at all costs is hyperextending those knees. By hyperextend, I mean bending them in the opposite direction of where they're supposed to bend. You don't need to do that to activate those leg muscles. So once we're comfortable with engaging those leg muscles, the next would be our core muscles. What you want to do is use those abs when you're stopping. The core is actually quite difficult to activate if you're not used to it, but think of it as a cough, like the muscles you're using when you cough, or when you think somebody's about to punch you in the stomach, you just automatically want to contract those muscles to protect your innards. So if you're having a hard time, just stop and put your fingertips to your abs and see if you can contract those muscles without going from side to side. Once you are able to activate them, then try engaging them when you stop with your legs, because now you're going to stop with your abs and your legs. Stop, and 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 stop. Okay, so after the legs and the core, the next group of muscles we can move into are the pecs, the shoulders, and the lats, which would be about here, and the upper arms, so your biceps and triceps. And what you want to do is you want to take this idea of side to side And you want to think about it in the upper torso as well, this motion. So this side to side actually shows up in a couple of ways. So the first that we went over was shifting our weight from one leg to the other leg. And in essence, you can also think about it as shifting your hips from one side to the other side. Mimicking that, we can bring it up to the shoulders as well. So as you're shifting your weight to one side, you're also lifting that shoulder. And then you're shifting your weight to the other side, you're lifting that same shoulder. So you're basically going from shoulder to shoulder as you're shifting your weight. This side to side movement between the two shoulders gives you now a reason to contract those muscles, because that's how you're gonna stop that movement from side to side. So as you're lifting your shoulder up, the way you stop that motion is by contracting. So you're squeezing them to come to a stop. And then relax and bring up the other shoulder. And we're gonna do the same thing here. So if you're not sure if you're activating those muscles, just use your hand to kind of feel around and see if you can get them to activate or tense up around the shoulder. So it should be your upper arm and then all the muscles that kind of go around the shoulder. You should be able to tighten them. Using your own fingers or hands, touch the muscle that you're trying to engage and see if you can activate it. For the pecs, the easiest thing to do is to hold your hand actually out in front of you and then try and activate those muscles. You'll find that the farther out your hand goes, the harder it is to get into those muscles. So as long as your hand stays in front of you, you should be able to activate. Sometimes I like to drop my hand and try to get into those muscles by lifting the shoulder. So you're not lifting the shoulder to drive them down for your hit. That's a different type of hit that we'll go over another day. For this specific tutorial, we're just going to squeeze our muscles at the very top of the shoulder lift. So squeeze to stop the movement and then gently drop, lift, squeeze to stop and stop and stop and stop and stop. And then the same with your arms. You want to put your hand on your arms and make sure that you're activating, you're tensing up the bicep and tricep. Other side. Same with the pecs. The lats don't actually activate unless the arm's going further back or down. And at that point, what you're doing is you're kind of squeezing the muscles all around the shoulders. Once you're sure you're activating them, you're gonna go back to side, and then now use those muscles to stop each time you shift. So stop, and stop, and stop, and stop, and stop, and stop. So once again, instead of thinking about creating a visible, impressive muscle contraction, what you can do instead is think about just stopping with all of those muscles, using your leg, your core, your chest, your upper arms, and even some of your back muscles and shoulder muscles. So in terms of counts and timing, ideally you'd land your stops on the downbeat. I personally like to move on the odd counts or the ones and stop on the twos or the even counts. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and that is part 1 of the hitting series. If you'd like to see more, let me know. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Other than that, I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.